All right, guys. All right. Welcome back. I'm kind of doing this tonight just to save some time, and this is going to be a separate video. But, I got the engine out. Okay. Super easy, not too much. 4 bolts hold it down, some belts, and take off the key, the choke. Not hard to do. You know, back here, this timing gear in this camshaft is right back in here behind this cover. So what you do is you take the exhaust off. The exhaust is held on here, and here, and then also the flange bolts. So 6 bolts, and the whole exhaust comes off of the manifold, right, sitting on the ground. You get that because that's in the way, and it's also bolted into the cover, and this whole cover's got to come off. And this is the rear crank seal. This cover's going to come off and slide right off of this shaft. In addition to that, to do one of these jobs, you also got to take the dipstick out, which just sits in there in a little O-ring, and then it rotates around and then bolts into that little, sorry, bad filming here. This just goes in there, and then the bolt goes through that hole right there. And that's what holds the dipstick in. It's got a little O-ring on it. That's all that holds it in there. It pulls right out. Drain the oil. Out of the oil drain tube. Got the oil out of there. And these are the cover bolts on the ground. Each one of these bolts here was going in one of these holes. I already zipped all these out. So we got the oil drained out, the exhaust, the dipstick, all that shit. And now we're ready to access the broken shit, which I'm not going to do tonight. I just wanted to get this done. And I also, you know, what I was doing is like, I'm like, oh, goddamn, these exhaust bolts are going to break off. You know how these things go. So I soaked them in some WD-40 and they popped right off. So I just thought, well, I'll just go ahead and unbolt everything tonight. So when I come back in later, it'll be real easy to jack this cover back off of that shaft and then get in there, and then we'll have access to the broken stuff. And essentially what's going on is, here's the main crankshaft. As this thing spins around, there's a gear in there, and it's supposed to turn another gear, which turns the camshaft. And as the camshafts spin, right, they got lobes on them that push the valves up and down. So that's what's not happening right now. That's why no exhaust was coming out. That's how I determined what was wrong with this thing. Was it had air, fuel, and spark. All 3 conditions were there, and it still wasn't starting. So what I did was I put my hand on the back of the exhaust, and I noticed that when I was cranking it over, there was nothing coming out of the exhaust. There wasn't even a little puff of air. That told me that there was a disconnect between the camshaft and the cylinder heads. So that's the timing chain. I naturally assumed, oh, the timing chain broke, or the timing belt broke. That's what connects the bottom of the engine to the top and keeps them lined up. Because as the pistons go up and down, the valves also have to go up and down at exactly the right time. So you have a toothed belt or a chain or some way of locking those 2 things together, so they keep their orientation as the engine's going around. Once I understood that that wasn't happening because nothing was coming out, which means the exhaust valves weren't opening up, I knew that there was a disconnect. And then these engines are pretty simple. These things don't have timing chains or timing belts. They got a couple of gears. So that's how these maintain a relationship. So those gears are plastic and they break. I went on YouTube and some guy fixes these things all the time. He's like, yep, almost every single time when that happens, it's that gear, that plastic gear that breaks. So there's a gear here. That's the actual camshaft gear. But there's also I think it's the engine governor. There's an engine governor gear over here, and then there's also an oil pump gear. So there's like actually 4 gears we got to replace because they're all plastic. And if we're going to do one, we might as well do them all, because I'll fix this one and then that motherfucker will break over there a week later. So we might as well just fix them all, put all brand new gears that aren't heat treated and brittle and basically all messed up, and just get new shit in there. So that's what's going on, guys. Super simple. We're just got to figure out a way to finagle this cover off. And I'm probably going to do it with a bar puller. I'm going to thread a couple of studs into this hole so I can pull out with even pressure on both sides and then jack off at this point right here. Probably is what I'm going to do. We'll see if that'll work or not. And then we want this cover to come off evenly, and then also we have to do the seal. So apparently you're not supposed to reuse this seal. When you take this whole thing off, you're supposed to put a new seal in there. So we'll go down to Issaquah Honda Kubota. We'll order up all these parts. Super easy to get. They'll probably take a week to get here. Slap them all in, put them all in there, And then this engine will be squirting some shit in the not too distant future. Actually, no, this engine won't be doing that. This engine's gonna go back on the shelf as a nice engine ready to go. I'll just leave the new engine. Well, you know what? Maybe I'll put this one back in there and I'll keep the new engine on the shelf. Yeah, what about that? We just have a new one sitting around. That's kind of cool. I like that idea. We got options. We got lots of options. Let's check out. We probably got to do, since we pulled the exhaust off. But these exhaust gaskets are pretty manky. This one was, I think this one came off. It's like loose. Yeah, it's in pretty good shape. We'll get new exhaust gaskets too, just for good measure. And we got a nice old rusty exhaust. We might even put a nice new shiny black one on there. Maybe. We'll see. We'll see how the bank account's looking when I go to order these parts. It'd be nice to have some nice looking stuff. We'll hit this thing with some brake clean it all up, get it nice and purdied up, get it ready for prom night. And, yeah. Okay, guys. So, yeah, we got a surprise camshaft repair in a 690. Something I've never done before. I'm kind of excited about learning how this is going to go. The one thing I'm nervous about is getting that, when you pull the camshaft out, it's like, you know, you got those lobes in there and they got to hit the rocker, or they got to hit the little metal plates that push the valves up and down. And it's like, how does that work? I guess we get, and then it also has to be aligned. And apparently the teeth are marked. So like the camshaft gear has a little mark on it and it lines up with the crankshaft, a mark on the crankshaft gear. So all you got to do is get those things lined up and then it's properly timed. So, yeah, we'll see how that goes. All right, guys. We'll talk to you later. See ya. Okay, here we go. Got the cover off. So on the bottom of the cover here, this goes just like this, right over the top. Back on there. At the bottom, you have the oil pump gear. That little black thing on the bottom, that's the oil pickup tube. That is the engine governor gear. And that is, that's like an idler gear. So, and then that right there is that big one is the camshaft and the camshaft gear, which is turned by the crankshaft. And you look on the camshaft gear, just those teeth got sheared right off. So that's what the problem is. See that right on the bottom of that gear? Just grounded right off. Fucking dog shit. All right, that's what we're doing. Okay, more to come, guys. And you'll see, we'll figure out how to replace this camshaft ourselves. Welcome back to the channel. We're, check it out. We got a new 630 on the floor. Come on, get a shot of it, Jenny. Okay, so we got a new 630 to replace that broken down 690 that's up on the table. Get a shot of that. Let's show you guys again real quick what happened here, which sucks. Essentially the timing chain broke. It's not a chain, it's a gear. It's a plastic gear. So that's got to get replaced. And along with the governor gear and the oil pump, because you got to do all that shit at the same time. For this to happen, you got to take the valve covers off, take off the lifters, pull out the push rods, and then put it at the top dead center, and then you can just pull the cam rod out. Then the cam's got to go back in. You got to do it with assembly lube and make it all nice and neat. And then put the rods, lifters back on, and basically bolt it all back together, and that's it. What we didn't have, what was a surprise, was all these engine shafts. They have the output shaft that powers it is 1.1 inch. All the engines we have ever had are 1.1 inch. We get the new engine today, and of course the one we got is have a 1 inch shaft. So this shaft is a little less diameter, so I had to go race and get another bushing. So this is the exact same kind of taper fit bushing. Instead of an H bushing, which has 2 bolts, this is an SH bushing, which has 3. And the inside diameter, the ones on the blowers are 7/8. The ones on all the other engines are 1.1 inch, so a 1/4 inch bigger. And then for some reason, this engine came to us with a 1 inch shaft, so I had to go race down and hunt down the proper size bushing for the 3 belt pulley, so that we could put this thing in. Of course, it didn't come with an exhaust either, so Jenny went and picked up the exhaust. She's behind the camera right now. Let's see this. Thanks, Jenny, for getting the exhaust. Will is on sandblasting today, helping us out with the blower. Hey, Will, do you mind saying hi to YouTube?
Hey, how's it going?
Will, say hi to YouTube. There's Kyle.
I'm over here
Will.
Working on this machine over here.
Yeah, Will's going crazy getting on this sandblasting project for us so we can.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you very much, Will. Yeah, we just got done cleaning out a sump pit this morning. It was a really bad, broken down pit that was all flooded out. And Kyle.
Hi, Kyle.
We enlisted the help of a friend of mine. His name's Carol. He has a big window cleaning company, but he also has a septic truck that does a little septic pumping on the side. So in order to just kind of offload our schedule, Carol is going to send his vacuum truck down here today to empty out our trailer and just offload all that so we can keep all our stuff cleaned out to start the project, not have to mess around with it this week. But I got to get this goddamn engine going. And part of the problem that I didn't realize was part of the problem is I had too many fucking face pubes on my face. So last night, me and Jenny did some manscaping.
Good.
What do you guys think? Does it look good?
Babe.
Yeah? Not quite so grizzly, Adam?
It looks good.
Yeah?
I like it.
Pose?
Yeah.
All right, so in an effort to avoid having to send a trailer out, a backup trailer into Seattle, it's super tight, and there's just never any room at all the places that young fellow is going to go to tomorrow. We're going to race and try to get the skid put back together so they can just go out with a truck only. And that's what I'm trying to do today. So, torture. I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but I do want to explain to you how this process goes real quick. So the exhaust is going to go back on. It's 6-bolt. That's super simple. We're going to slap the bushing on here in the pulley and just leave it loose. Once we get the exhaust on with the pulley, we're going to bolt the engine back down. There's 4 bolts. And then we're going to put the belts on the pump and the generator and mate them up to the engine. Then we're going to basically just slide this pulley in and out until we get it to where the belts are nice and aligned. Once we get the belts aligned, we'll zip these 3 bolts down, which will cinch up and lock this pulley and bushing into place, and then we're good to go. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take this whole thing outside and let it run for about an hour and a half, which will help break in the engine before they go and load it up tomorrow. So what'll happen is the engine's just going to go run outside for an hour or two after I fill it full of its first oil, and we'll just run it in bypass mode so it's not loaded and working hard, and it's just going to run for an hour or two, and that'll help break it in. Then we'll run it for about 5 or 6 days. We might go through most of the project next week, and then we'll do an oil change. That's very important on new engines. You got to basically change the oil after just a couple of days of running them, and because when they're new, you have the possibility to get little metal shavings and stuff like that. This is part of the braking process. So we'll run it for a couple of days, and then we'll change the oil, put a new filter on there, and then it's good for, it's just like any other machine that we run full time. That's what's going to happen. So this is not too complicated of a process. All that holds the engine in is 4 bolts at the base, and it's just a matter of sliding this in and out. So the bolts are all aligned, and that's pretty much it. Not too much to it. Hook up the gas, the battery, the big power cable to the starter motor. So we'll start it, and that's pretty much it. There is one thing here that I'm not totally sure about because I've never seen this. There's no voltage regulator on this engine. All these pressure washer engines, and I think it's because they're older, they come with these, they look like some kind of an aftermarket voltage regulator. They usually bolt them up on the side of the engine. What this does, this takes all the current from the charge system on the flywheel, and it converts it to 14.5 volts, which is what charges the battery. I'm not seeing this anywhere on this engine, which freaks me out, but I am seeing something that looks similar that's much smaller. So I think what's going on is that Honda somehow, let's get a close up right here. The only thing I don't know what anything is here is this thing right here, this finned cooling apparatus, this hunk of metal here with some wiring going into it. I've never seen that on one of these things, and that looks like a small version of a voltage regulator. So that's really interesting. I think that's what that is. I won't know for sure till I start it up, and then I put a couple of probes on the battery. If the battery's reading like 11.8 or 12 volts or something like that, then that is not the voltage regulator. If in fact, when this thing is running, the battery's reading at like 14.5, 14.4, 14.6 volts, that means that is probably Honda's new voltage regulator, which is totally cool. That looks like super tiny, smaller, probably a lot cheaper because those things are a couple $100 when they go out. And so that's the one question mark I have. Other than that, that's what we're doing. All right, guys, thanks a lot. when I get done putting this in, we'll grab another footage of it running and showing you if it's in fact the correct voltage or not when it's charging the battery. Okay, thanks a lot. See you soon. Thanks, Bugs.
Yeah, it's a good sound.
We'll do the honors. What do you think? Okay, so what you're gonna do is just leave all this shit on. We're gonna let it run. We're just gonna spray a little water on the ground, and then we're gonna close the bulb out and just let it run a bypass code. So this procedure is just gonna be, it's gonna take a minute. It's gonna start the line, fill up the line, and as soon as it's running, it's gonna stop sputtering like that. Good.
Where are we starting from? We're starting up here, right?
Down here. So this one, we're not doing a remote start.
Okay.
Factory stuff. So the choke is down here.
Okay.
Start.
Gotcha.
and choke.
Gotcha. Okay.
Keep it going. Okay. Now it's on. We got a throttle now. The other one's gonna take all that shit out.
Gotcha.
We're gonna warm up a little, let the oil get going through there. So that sounds to me like an oil cutoff issue. It's got to be above that lower dot. Cut that oil kill switch. If there's not enough oil, there's a switch that will kill the engine.